Last October, my family was lucky enough to go on a 4-hour VIP tour at SeaWorld San Diego. We arrived early and met our tour guide, Ricardo. He was able to get us in before the parks technically even opened. The first thing we did was stick our hands into the cleaner fish tank, and that was an odd sensation, but it was pretty cool. Then we moved on to pet some bamboo shark. My son loved this part. We then walked around a little more and stopped at the outdoor penguin exhibit. Penguins are my family's favorite animals, so we love to see them swim around and make noise and just overall enjoy them. It was nice to get this small amount of time without any people in the parks, but we soon heard them coming, so we moved on to our first animal encounter. And our first animal was the beluga whale. They told us what to expect outside of the exhibit and then took us into the tank area. We stood and knelt next to the tank while we learned all about their bodies and diets and habits. It was amazing. These are truly great animals. We got to touch Klondike and feel her fatty head, and I know that sounds weird, but it was amazing. This was probably my favorite animal interaction all day. The bottom of her belly reminded me of touching a rubber raft. It was so extraordinary to be able to experience this kind of interaction with an animal that I've never experienced before. After that, we headed off to get our first snack. We settled on churros and they were surprisingly delicious. I don't expect much out of park food, but they were really good. So we ate them as we walked to our next animal interaction.
Owen, come on up here. I'm going to have you on this top step so you can see her real good, okay? I'm going to have you put one hand out like this, nice and flat, and just stay nice and still for me.
We walked through a closed-off section into the dolphin arena. We played with Malibu. She was so much fun, and my son just loved getting splashed by the dolphin's tail. The trainers seemed really nice, and they helped us do lots of training activities and just fun games and dances and all kinds of stuff with Malibu. And it was a lot of fun and not something that I personally have ever done before. It was fun to be able to interact with the dolphins without actually getting in the water with them.
Okay, you guys all want to come on over here? To keep that nice sleek skin in the water, help you swim fast. See that hair fin's coming off? It's just slipping off. It does that all the time. Oh, I hear you. I hear you talking. I hear you talking. All right, we're going to nice and far out there. Yeah! Grab your flippers. Good job! Yeah, let go! Let go! Good, girl. What did you do? Do
We had a couple minutes before our next encounter, so we went through the shark walkthrough. In general, I wasn't thrilled with how many people were in there all at once, and it was really loud, but I'm not really one for crowds. I actually liked that you just get on the moving sidewalk and then don't have to move until you get off. It makes it much easier to look around, and it means that people aren't just standing there, so everyone gets a chance to look. This was also a time that Ricardo was super valuable to us because he took lots of time to point out different sharks.
Turtles, whales, and otters. Those are my top 3 favorite animals.
Just hold the end of it and then just stick it up to that hole. Perfect. Awesome.
That's so cute. Our next animal interaction was the sea otters. They were so adorable. This may have been one of my son's favorites. We got to feed them treats through these little holes in this plexiglass wall. We were able to stay there for quite a while watching the otters swim around, eat their snacks, and listen to the trainers talk about these special animals. I'm glad every single person in my family was able to get the chance to feed these amazing little sea otters. It was a great family opportunity for us, and I love that they included every single one of us, not just my son. It was a great experience for my husband and myself, and we just really loved being able to be a part of these animals' enrichment.
They actually have retractable claws, a little bit like cats, which helps them to grip, so she can grip onto that slippery ice. And then they're really, really strong, so they gotta be able to take absolutely off these rocks. They're really strong too. Great job, kid. Good girl.
We also stopped to see the baby otter that was there. Oh, this little baby is so cute, don't you think?
She's like, come feed me. Come feed me. I want to get out so I can eat all the
it's actually we're getting towards lunchtime actually.
Okay.
What would you guys like?
After we were done admiring the baby otter, we headed off for lunch. We ate at Mama Stella's. It wasn't amazing food, but it was totally satisfactory for a theme park. We then made our way to the Sea Lion and Otter Show. Since it was October, it was Halloween themed. My son thought it was seriously hilarious. He was cracking up. Plus side, since we were there on a VIP tour, we showed up only a couple minutes before the show and were given amazing seats. These aren't just the seats you get when you pay for the passes. An employee was actually standing, waiting for us up close. Plus, it was a super fun show watching the sea lions dance around.
Okay.
While we waited for our next animal interaction, we were able to have some bonus interactions. We saw beautiful flamingos. We were able to pet and feed some rays. My son always loves all kinds of rays. Yes, we fed rays before, but it was still nice to do it again. And then we headed over to the seals and tossed them some fish. I've definitely never fed so many animals in one day. It was fun and amazing.
Hey! All right, here, you take this. Come in.
That one's the one that spits out a bunch. The snowy eagles.
Finally, it was time for our sea lion encounter. We got to hang out with Diesel, who was the star of the show that we saw earlier. We took some pictures, we did some training, we threw him some treats. My son got to dance with him, we got to watch him swim, and we learned so much about these wonderful creatures. I can't imagine someone doing one of these tours and not having the time of their lives. It was just such a fun experience.
They use their front flippers to propel themselves through the water, and then they use those hind flippers to turn and stop. Now a seal, who's their very close relative, they do the exact opposite. They're the reverse. And they have very different ways of flippers. But they are pinnipeds. They are exact. Watch it! Good job. There you go. direction. It doesn't matter. Watch that guy. Look at mommy. Look at. There you go. Excellent. All right, guys. I'm gonna take Diesel back to take a nap now.
The whole day, I knew our last animal encounter was going to be the sea turtles. I, however, chose to keep that a secret from my son. You see, recently he had really gotten into sea turtles. They were and still are one of his favorite animals. We walked over to the sea turtle area and saw them in their underwater exhibit with everyone else. My son was already so happy just looking at them. He was having the time of his life. But we had to pry him away so that we could go into the employee-only area. The trainer was a little busy at first, so we hung out and looked at some of the cleaner shrimp and some fish that spit in order to get their food. How amazing is that? Just check it out right here. Did you see that? That fish just spit to get food off of the branch and get the food into the water so that he could eat it. That is seriously amazing. And nobody else ever gets to see that. It's just us because we got to be on this great VIP tour. And here you can see the shrimp that are cleaning my son's dirty hands from this day in the theme park. And they feel super weird, but it was so much fun. We had such a great time just hanging out backstage, or whatever you want to call it. Finally, the trainer did return and we were able to go above the enclosure. So what you're seeing right here is the exact same enclosure below where we were watching the sea turtles. But this time we are above the water. And she talked a lot about these amazing creatures. And my son was almost in tears. He was so happy. We were able to throw a full box of lettuce out to the turtles to eat. It was so much fun watching them. It was also fun to see that their favorite part is actually that hard stem at the bottom of the lettuce that we humans usually throw away. It was amazing. And it was obviously my son's favorite part of the entire day. He never stops talking about it. These sea creatures are truly one of a kind. After we left the turtles, Ricardo let us know that we still had a snack that we could get, so we got some ice cream bars. Owen loved this. He had been asking for one all day. Then we sadly had to say goodbye to Ricardo. It was obvious that he loves his job, and I just couldn't be any happier with our experience during this tour. One of my favorite parts was having someone take our picture anytime we wanted. As someone always taking the pictures and rarely being in them, I definitely appreciated this. You guys, I cannot brag enough about Ricardo. He was seriously amazing. He did everything he could to really make us feel like VIPs. I have definitely never felt so special in my entire life, especially at a theme park. And I know it costs a lot to do these VIP tours, but if you are able to, I definitely recommend doing it, and it was worth the money for us just to have a special experience like this. Like, without doing this tour, there's no way that you can experience any of the things that we did. It was amazing. Since our tour was over, we did have to head out on our own, but since our tour was only 4 hours, we had plenty of time to do other things, like see the orca show. And we were given our front-of-the-line tickets to use the rest of the day, which includes a special area to sit in during shows. It was a great show, and we had a great time. My son's only complaint was that he did not get to sit in the splash zone. We, however, did not complain about that.
Good job, buddy. Thank you for being an excellent sport.
There was no way that we were going to see only 2 of the shows available. We also had to see the dolphin show. I mean, these creatures are so amazing. They're so strong They can jump so high in the air, and I just couldn't imagine going to SeaWorld without seeing their show. So we decided to sit at the top of the splash zone, and honestly, we did end up getting a couple drops on us. But it satisfied Owen's want to be in the splash zone without getting my husband and I soaking wet. It was a great show, and we honestly really enjoyed it. Woo! Whoa, ready? Since we had spent all of our tour seeing animals, we decided it was time to ride some rides. We didn't even come close to riding them all, but we did get to ride just a couple. My son and I rode Shipwreck Rapids twice because the first time he, of course, did not get wet enough. But it was fun and I did enjoy it. My husband rode the electric eel by himself because my son and I were not interested in going upside down. He said that it was a lot of fun though. Between rides, my son did get to do a little bit of trick-or-treating since it was during the Halloween Spooktacular. We got to ride the Journey to Atlantis, which was one of my favorite rides. We got soaked, and personally I loved it. My son enjoyed the large drop, but the roller coaster part of the ride really freaked him out and he didn't want to ride it again. We did have to get a locker for that ride. We spent a little bit of time in the Arctic area. It was beautifully themed. I loved seeing the belugas, the walruses, the seals, and the penguins. It was so much fun and nice and cool, which was a great break from that San Diego heat. It was a great relief from all of our running around, and I loved how the penguin area had a moving sidewalk just like the shark area. It was relaxing. He's so cute. Right before we left the park, my husband and son decided to ride Manta. It looked like a ton of fun and they really seemed to enjoy themselves. We seriously can't express how much fun we had here, and if you ever get the chance, I highly recommend going to SeaWorld in San Diego, and if you can afford it, get that VIP tour because it was an experience that we will never forget.